Yep, there it is. Shadow and Fortune Part 2. Hopefully this is more interesting than the first part, which basically told us almost nothing about anything. Again, a little background about Ilawi, some more background about what happened after Misfortune blew Gangplank's ship. That's about it.
Fortune, Chapter 2.
Let's go.
Misfortune snapped the barrels of her pistols shut and laid them down on the table next to her short-bladed sword. Scores of frantic bells and shouts of alarms echoed from the panicked city below. She knew well what they signified. The harrowing. In defiance of the incoming storm, she kept the shuttered window of her newly acquired villa open.
Okay, so this is happening somewhere towards Halloween, I guess. That's when the harrowing happens in Runeterra, or whatever the place is called. Yeah, Runeterra. We watched a video about harrowing. It was like, for some reason during the harrowing, the Shadow Isles become loose, and like the monstrosities leave that isle for like the day or two or whatever, and they cause chaos, mostly in Bilgewater because that's the closest area. So I guess that's kind of like where this is leading to.
Daring the dead to come for her. Fluttering winds carried their hunger and a cold that settled bone deep. Perched high on Bilgewater's eastern cliffs, the villa had once belonged to a hated gang leader. In the chaos of Gangplank's
harrowing is Halloween.
He'd been dragged from his bed and had his brains bashed out on the cobbles.
It's just that during Halloween, during the harrowing, the Shadow Isles, because usually Shadow Isles, like, stuff don't escape from there, except during Halloween, basically, and that's when, like, and mostly they cause chaos. They go to the Bilgewater because it's like the closest area to them or some shit.
Belonged to
with life.
And she'd be damned if she'd go the same way. She reached up and ran a fingertip around the curves of the pendant Eloy had given her at Bayern's sinking. The coral was warm to the touch, and though she didn't truly believe in what it represented, it was a pretty enough bauble. The door to her chamber opened and she let the pendant drop. She knew who was behind her without turning. Only one man would dare enter without knocking. "What are you doing?" asked Raffen. "What does it look like I'm doing?" "Like you're about to do something damn stupid."
Always,
said Misfortune, placing her hands on the table. "We shed blood and lost good people to bring down Gangplank. I'm not going to let the harrowing just what? Take this place from me," she snapped, lifting her pistols and jamming them into their custom-tooled hip scabbards.
See, women, so impulsive, man. Just wait it out. Just wait it out. The harrowing lasts only like a day. Just wait it out. Why fight it? Just hide, wait it out, and you got another year, and then you can make your preparations and shit.
And you're not
so impulsive.
We're not here to stop you. Misfortune turned to see Raffen at the threshold of her chambers, a score of her best fighters waiting in the vestibule beyond, armed to the teeth with a mixture of muskets, wheel-lock pistols, clanking bombs, and cutlasses that looked like they'd been looted from a museum. "Looks like you're about to do something damn stupid as well," she said.
Yeah.
"Aye."
Follow the captain.
Walking over to the open window and slamming the shutters closed. "You really think we'd let our captain go out to face that alone? I almost died bringing Gangplank down, and I'm not done yet. I don't expect you to go with me. Not tonight," said Misfortune, coming to stand before her men and resting their hands on the carved walnut grips of their guns. "This isn't your fight." "Of course it bloody is."
Of course it is. What do you mean?
Raffen. Misfortune.
It's more interesting that Misfortune thinks that this is her fight, which is like, it's everyone in Bilgewater fight. Like, what do you mean it's your fight? Like, who died and made you queen? Even if you are, you have the queen's guard too, you know? It's like...
A breath and nodded. "There's every chance we won't live to see morning," she said, unable to keep the hint of a smile tugging at her lip. "This ain't our first harrowing together, Captain,"
Yep.
said Raffen, tapping the skull pommel of his sword. "And I'll be damned if it's our last." Olaf was in sight of the Winter's Kiss when he heard the screams. He ignored them at first. Screams were nothing new in Bilgewater. But then he saw men and women running from the quayside in terror, and his interest was piqued. They scrambled from their boats and fled for the crooked streets as fast as they could. They didn't look back and they didn't stop, not even when a shipmate tripped or fell into the water. Olaf had seen men run from battle, but this was something else. This was naked terror. The kind he'd only ever seen etched on the frozen corpses spat out by glaciers where the Ice Witch was said to dwell. Shutters were slamming shut all across the wharf, and the strange symbols he'd seen on every door were frantically being dusted with white powder. Enormous winches were lifting timber structures formed from bolted together hulls of ships high up the cliffs. He recognised the tavern keeper who ran a drinking den where the beer was only slightly stronger than troll piss and waved to him. "What's going on?"
It's like such random details where the beer was only slightly stronger than troll piss. I don't know about you, man. Troll piss sounds pretty damn strong to me. Something I would never ever want to drink.
The tavern keeper shook his head and pointed to the ocean before slamming his
Random
door.
details.
Olaf set the Krakenworm's tooth on the stone wharf and turned to see what all the fuss was about. At first he thought a storm was coming in, but it was a thick black sea fog, albeit fog that approached with unnatural speed and fluid motion. "Ah, now," he said, unhooking his axe from his belt. "This looks promising." The feel of the weapon's battle-worn leather grip was pleasing in his calloused palm as he passed it from hand to hand, rolling his shoulders to loosen the muscles. The black mist swept over the farther ships, and Olaf...
It's the leadership thing. When she became head honcho of Bilgewater, she took its order and protection her shoulders. Yeah, on her shoulders. Yeah, I get it, but like, as far as I understand, so right now they're still dealing with the aftermath of her blowing Gangplank ship up. Like she's like the de facto leader, but she's not leader yet. Also, the whole harrowing thing, again, it's not like it's only her problem, because like she lived in Bilgewater for a long time. During harrowing, kind of like everyone participates, you know? So it's like just because you came leader doesn't mean like you're changing how we're dealing with the harrowing kind of thing. It's like if it was her first harrowing, she just came to Bilgewater out of nowhere and took over, and then the harrowing starts. I'm like, okay, maybe. But it's like everyone who lives there knows what the harrowing is. There's no reason for her to be like, well, I'm gonna take care of this on my own. Bitch, no you can't. What do you mean?
His eyes widened as he saw spirits plucked from the blackest nightmares writhing in the mist. A towering dread knight, a monstrous chimera of warhorse and man, led them alongside a black-clad reaper lined in green fire. These lords of the dead left the spirit host
Hecarim and Karthus?
They flew into Bilgewater proper, with predatory speed. Olaf had heard the natives speak in hushed whispers of something called the Harrowing, a time of doom and darkness, but hadn't expected to be lucky enough to face it axe in hand. The host of the dead tore into the wallowing galleys, merchantmen and corsair ships with claw and fang, ripping them apart like an ursine with its snout in a fresh kill. Sailcloth tore and rigging lines snapped as easily as rotten sinew. Heavy masts splintered as boats were tossed into one another and smashed to kindling. A host of screaming wraiths flew into the winter's kiss, and Olaf roared in anger as the Long Reaver's keel heaved and split, its timbers freezing solid in a heartbeat. The boat sank as swiftly as if its hold were filled with rocks, and Olaf saw his fellow Freljordians dragged below the water by creatures with cadaverous limbs and fish-hooked mouths. "Olaf will make you wish you had stayed dead!" he yelled as he charged along the wall. Spirits boiled up from the ocean, icy claws slashing towards him. Olaf's axe sang out, cleaving a glittering arc through the host. The dead screeched as his blade sundered him, its true ice edge more lethal than any enchantment. They howled as they died a second time, and Olaf sang the song he'd written for the moment of his death with lusty vigour. The words were simple, but the equal of any saga told by the wandering poets of the ice. How long had he waited to sing these words? How often had he feared he might never get the chance? A shimmering mist of snapping jaws swarmed him. Spectres and things of mist, webs of frost patterned his...
You know what I find funny about these people? Like, the type of person like Olaf where it's like, I can't wait to die in a glorious battle or some shit. It's like, bro, it's so easy to find a glorious battle. Go to Noxus and be like, I'm gonna kill everybody here. And just go and fight until you die. Like, it's not that, like, every time like you see the Viking shows, whatever, it's like, I want to die in glorious battle. Meanwhile, they survive after the defeat and all that shit. It's like, like clearly, there's like more to it, you know?
His hauberk and the deadly touch of voracious spirits burned his skin.
It's like Sparta was the only one who actually followed this code, where like the women or like the mothers said like, I'd rather my son return on a shield than return without one. Because if he returns without a shield means he ran away from the fight. I'd rather him fight and die. You know, there's like, the only defeat in Sparta means everyone died. There's no such thing as ran away. That I understand. But these guys like, oh yeah, man, I can finally die in an honorable battle or whatever. It's like, you can always do that. You can just go find a bunch of opponents, man. It's not...
And it fired his blood to heights of fury unknown to all but the Berserker. He shrugged off the pain of the wraith touch, feeling reason recede and fury build. Crimson froth built at the corners of his mouth as he bit the inside of his cheeks raw. He roared and swung his axe like a madman, caring nothing for pain, only that he slew his enemies. That they were dead already meant nothing to him.
Yeah, whatever. Kill them even if they're dead.
Back, ready to strike another blow, when a deafening crash of splintering columns...
Olaf had done that? Well, yeah, now he's doing it. He's going into like that shadow to fight. But I'm saying like, it's like he says that like what the narrator said, it's like Olaf feared that he would never have a chance to use that song that he prepared for his death. And it's like, bro, like it's not that hard to find a fight you're gonna die in, you know? He has faced overwhelming odds before hoping to die, and he walked away disappointed. Yeah, I get it, but I'm just saying it's like it's not that hard to keep finding fights. Also, let's say this, if you go and like you invade a whole nation by yourself, right? It's like you will either die, you will either like kill a bunch, get exhausted and then die, like, you know, use up all your energy, or you would die fighting. You know, it's like, it's not that like, do you think Olaf can take down all of Noxus? You know, it's like, do you think Olaf alone can take down all of Demacia? You know, it's like, probably not, right? So it's like, it's not that hard for him to find a fight where he would die.
Flames erupted behind him. He spun to face this new foe as a blizzard of smash wood and stone crashed into the quayside. Bladed shards sliced his face, and fist-sized chunks of stone pummeled his arms raw. Rendered fats and animal fluids fell in a rank drizzle as a horrendous groaning issued from the black mist.
It's like, imagine like some crazy guy walks into your town and be like, fight me! Fight me! It's like, I wanna fight! Just fucking start hitting shit with axes.
Then he saw it. The spirit of the Kraken worm arose from the remains of the slaughter dock, titanic and filled with fury. Its ghostly tentacles lifted into the air and smashed down like thunderbolts hurled by a wrathful god. An entire street was smashed to ruin in the blink of an eye, and Olaf's berserker fury surged as he finally beheld a foe worthy of claiming his life. Olaf raised his axe in salute of his killer.
And it's told by an oracle or something that he would die an old man, and Olaf hated that as a berserker, so he is looking for that glorious death, and everything so far he has walked away. Yeah, no. Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying. I didn't know the thing about the oracle, I get that, but like, and I get why he hates it as a berserker. And I understand he's looking for that glorious death, but I'm just saying it's like, they're overthinking. Like, I feel like, again, it's for the story. I get it, why he like rushes into danger and shit like that. I get that. I'm just saying that's like, he could go into Demacia and just start fighting. I'm sure he won't survive. You know, it's like, I'm sure he would get outnumbered and eventually killed by a bunch of fucking people attacking him. He will take a lot of them down, sure, but it's like, I'm sure he would not survive, you know, until, because like, if he just goes all in and he doesn't leave Demacia until everyone else is dead, I'm pretty sure they will stop him. You know?
Your beauty! He yelled, and charged to his doom.
Ah, Lucian. Why is Lucian
the woman
here?
Was beautiful, with wide almond-shaped eyes, full lips, and the high cheekbones common to Druid.
Is Lucian here hunting Thresh? Is that why he's there? Would make sense, I guess.
Marcia,
Yeah, right. It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't get it. It's like when, like, it's the same as like the Vikings and stuff like that, where they like dying in battle. Like, that's the only way to go to Valhalla. Meanwhile, if they're losing a fight, they run away. It's like, no, why are you running away if you're losing? Fight to the death. That's how you go to Valhalla, kind of thing, you know.
The portrait in the locket was a miniature masterpiece, but it failed to capture the depth of Senna's strength and determination. He rarely looked at her picture, knowing that to carry his grief too.
Yeah, he's here hunting for Thresh, right? Got his wife back.
Grief was a chink in his armor. Lucian could not allow himself to truly feel her loss, so he snapped the locket shut. That's
a cool part of the picture here, which you don't really see when it's animated and you see the guns blazing and shit. You don't really see this head exploded. That's nice. It's a nice touch.
He knew he should bury it in the sand of his cave beneath the cliffs. He could not put her memory below the earth as he had her body. He would shut the grief away until Thresh was destroyed and Senna's death avenged.
Yeah.
Then, and only then, would Lucian mourn his lost wife with tears and offerings to the Veiled Lady.
Little did he know.
How long had it been since that terrible night?
How long
He
indeed?
felt the bottomless abyss of sorrow lurking in ambush and viciously suppressed it as he had so many times before. He drew on the teachings of his order, repeating the mantras he and Senna had been taught.
Honestly, out of all the ADCs, I'd say, and I don't really like ADCs, I'd say Lucian is probably my second favorite after Kaisa. But I'm biased with Kaisa because of Kassadin. Lore-wise, I do love his story. Especially, like, I read his story when he came out about, like, Thresh and his wife, and I was like, that's really cool. And then when Thresh was released, which was, like, I think Thresh was released, like, right after Lucian. Or, like, maybe right before him, I don't remember. But they were released very close together. And I was like, oh, shit is about to go down in bot lane. What the worst part was that Thresh and Lucian was one of the best combos for bot lane. One of the best duos for bot lane, which was so fucked up.
To close themselves off from emotion. Only then could he reach a place of equilibrium that would allow him to face deathly horrors beyond imagining. The grief ebbed slowly, but it remained. He opened the locket only reluctantly, feeling a growing distance between himself and Senna's memory. He found he could no longer recall the exact sweep of her jawline, the smoothness of her skin, or the precise colour of her
Yeah, it was kind of annoying, huh? It's like, lore-wise, it doesn't make sense. Like, wait, if they cooperate, they're way too strong. Doesn't make sense.
The longer his hunt went on, the
like, you think they'll kill each other in lane, you know?
Lucian lifted
yeah. Lucian Nami right now is really strong too, yeah. Well, it depends on the Nami, let's be real. It's like, it really depends on the Nami.
Heartbeat to slow. The walls of the cave were pale limestone, gouged from the cliffs upon which Bilgewater was built. The motion of water and the stone picks of the natives had crafted a labyrinth beneath the city few knew or even suspected existed. The pale rock walls were etched with looping spirals, rippling waves and things that might have been unblinking eyes. He'd learned these were symbols of the native religion, but whoever had carved them had not visited this place in many years. He found it by following the secret symbols of his own order, symbols that would guide him to places of refuge and succor in any city of Valoran. Only dim reflections of light shimmered on the roof of the cave, but as his eyes followed the spiral of carvings, a shimmering radiance spread from his palm. Let me be your shield. Lucian looked down, the memory of her words as clear as though she stood next to him. The locket glistened with lambent green flame. He looped the chain of the locket around his neck and swept up his twin relic pistols. Thresh, he whispered. Bilgewater's streets were deserted. The bells from the ocean were...
It's like such a random intermission into Lucian. It's like, yeah, he misses his wife. Back to Bilgewater. The way it's edited, it's so weird.
Rat Town was completely covered by the black mist, and howling storms raged over Port Morn's desolation. Fires burned all along Butcher's Bridge, and a shimmering fog clung to cliffs above the grey harbour. The people in the upper reaches of the city hid in their homes and prayed to the bearded lady that the harrowing would pass them by. that grief would fall upon some other poor unfortunate. Warding candles of ambergris burned in every window, shimmering through bottle green sea glass. Burning roots of Empress of the Dark Forest hung from doors, shutters, and nailed-up planks. People really believe in the Empress? Asked Miss Fortune. Raffen shrugged, his mouth a thin line and the creases around his eyes pulled tight as he searched the gathering mist for threats. He pulled out a smouldering length of identical root from beneath his shirt. It's all about where you place your faith, isn't it? Miss Fortune drew her pistols. I have faith in these and in us, she said. What else are you carrying?
Fair.
This cutlass has kept me safe through 6 harrowings, he said, tapping its pommel again. I offered up a bottle of 10-year-old rum to the bearded lady, and this knife here was sold to me by a man who swore its edge was pure as sunsteel. Miss Fortune glanced at the scabbarded knife, certain without even seeing the blade that Raffen had been swindled. The workmanship around the quillons was too poor.
It's all about faith, Miss Fortune. It's all about faith. Doesn't matter if he was actually swindled or not. It's all about faith.
But she wasn't about to tell him that. What about you? He asked. Miss Fortune patted her pouch of pistol shot. Every one's been dipped in Myron's dark, she said loud enough for every one of her 30-strong company to hear. If the dead want to fight, we'll meet them with spirits of our own. The oppressive gloom made it hard to laugh, but she saw a few smiles, and that was about as much as she could expect on a night like this. She turned and pushed down into Bilgewater, descending crooked stairs cut into the rock of the cliffs, crossing secret bridges of half-rotted rope and threading forgotten alleys that hadn't known the tread of feet in years. She brought them into a wide square on one of the floating wharf shanties, where swaying dwellings leaned together as though their twisted eaves whispered to one another. Every facade was a mishmash of driftwood, and patterns of frost clung to the skewered timbers. Frozen winds blew through the patchwork dwellings, freighted with sobs and screams from afar. Flaming braziers hung from hundreds of mast lines strung between buildings, smoking with strange herbs. Pools of water rippled with reflections of things that weren't there. With stalls. Most days this was a thriving marketplace, packed to the gunwales with stalls, rattling meat vendors, drink hawkers, merchants, pirates, bounty hunters, and surly flotsam washed in from every corner of the world. Just about everywhere in Bilgewater had a view of this place, which was just how Miss Fortune wanted it. Mist clung to every outcropping of timber. Discarded figureheads wept frozen tears. Mist and shadows gathered. Cutpurse Square? Said Raffen. How did we get here? I ran this place as a wharf snipe. Thought I knew every...
I really love the background music. It reminds me of Witcher 3. Like some taverns and shit. Like straight up. It's so close.
In and out like any good little thief. Not every way, said Miss Fortune. The counting houses on either side were silent and dark, and she resisted the impulse to look through the torn sheets of flapping canvas nailed over porthole windows. How do you know these routes and I don't? Lady Bilgewater and I are two of a kind, said Miss Fortune, her gaze narrowing as black mist seeped into the square. She whispers her secrets to me like an old friend, so I know her every hidden wind and jitty like you never will. Raffen grunted as he spread into an empty square. What next? We wait, said Miss Fortune as they reached the centre of the square, feeling terribly exposed. The black mist twitched with things moving in its depths. A disembodied skull of ghostly light stretched from the darkness, empty-eyed and with sharpened teeth. Its jaws stretched wider than any natural bone structure would allow, and a keening wail built in its gullet. Miss Fortune's bullets punched through each of its eye sockets, and the skull vanished with a shriek of frustration. She twisted the wheel lock on each pistol, and ingenious mechanisms within reloaded each.
You know what would be cool? If they make a mode for Halloween specifically, but like it can be like for multiple weeks, not just like straight up Halloween, where you're actually like being chased by the harm. Like let's say you start Bilgewater and like you have to get the fuck out of Bilgewater because it's being attacked by Harrowing. Obviously the Harrowing at some point catches up to you and you get to fight it and shit like that. But it's more of a, it's sort of like the usual League of Legends where it's like, you know, conquer the enemy team, make it a PvE event where you just level up as you go, kill some shit, whatever, buy items on the way, like make it like maybe a mini roguelike kind of thing as you escape the harrowing. I think that would be pretty cool, like a pretty cool mode.
For a moment,
and it's like, you know, for a couple weeks, nothing big.
Then the black mist erupted in a screeching howl as the spirits of the dead surged into the square. For the second time this evening, Olaf cut his way inside the dead Kraken worm.
PvE mode one time in all their years, and it was great, but it was for Star Guardians. I think, yeah, I remember something. I'm pretty sure I played Yasuo in there. It wasn't just Star Guardians. I don't know if that's the same mode. I remember there was a PvE mode with, yeah, Odyssey. Yeah, that was the one. That was the one I played. I didn't do the Star Guardians one. There was did Project have a PvE? I don't remember Project. Odyssey, yeah. Odyssey was hard as fuck, by the way. it's like I died almost like, I think it was like within like something fifth. I don't know if it was like the fifth tower or like the fifth something, but like it was, yeah. I do not remember Project PvE. Yeah, that would be cool. I want them to make more of these like mini PvE events. I think that was like really cool. I don't know how successful it was, but I think it was pretty cool. Also gives you something else to do than like a break from like the usual League stuff.
He wielded his axe like a crazed woodsman, hewing left and right with
triangular map.
The beast's vast limbs were insubstantial as mist, yet the ice of his blade clove them like flesh. Tentacles flailed and slammed down on the stone of the wharf, but Olaf was fast for a big man. Slow warriors.
Yeah, no, I think I didn't play League at that time. I know, like during Project, when Project came out, because like I remember when I came back to League, I was like, what the fuck are all these Project skins, like Project Z and all Project stuff? So I was like, I guess I totally missed that, because I did take like half year here, a year here of breaks and stuff like that, because just get stale a bit.
He rolled and slashed with his axe, severing a suckered length of limb.
Still pretty cool. Like they should bring these back, like kind of like a season thing, where it's like whenever it was made, a year anniversary, they do it again for like a week or something like that. Like I don't see why they wouldn't, like anniversary type of stuff.
As it was parted from the monster's body.
It's like they have the modes.
Even in the grip of the red shroud, Olaf saw the creature's skull and the thrashing chaos of phantom limbs surrounding it. Its eyes were afire with the enraged spirit of its life. A moment of sublime connection passed between them. The beast's soul knew him. Olaf laughed with joy. You see the taker of your life, and we are now bonded in death, he roared. Mayhap, if you kill me, we shall battle forever in the realms beyond mortal ken. The prospect of eternal war against so mighty a foe poured fresh strength into Olaf's aching muscles. He charged towards the creature's maw, caring nothing for his pain as each brush with the Krakenworm's tentacles burned his skin worse than the splinter winds of Lockfar Coast. He leapt into the air, axe aloft. He looked glorious death in the face. A tentacle whipped out and lashed around his thigh. It swung him around in a dizzying arc, lifting him high into the air. Come then! Bellowed Olaf, punching his axe skyward in salute to their shared destiny. Unto death!
When he narrates.
A wraith creature with grasping talons and a mouth of icy fangs lunged from the swirling mass of spirits.
Unto death.
Misfortune put a bullet through its face and it vanished like smoke in a gale. A second shot and another spirit vanished. She grinned through her fear as she spun into cover behind a weather-worn stone bollard of the River King to reload. On impulse, she leaned over and gave his toothy grin a kiss. It's all about where you place your faith. Gods, bullets, or her own skill. The grin fell from her face as one of the pistols jammed with a grinding crunch of metal.
Oh.
Her mother's admonishing words arose from the dark recesses of memory. That's what you get when someone else mixes your powder, Sarah, she said, holstering the gun and sliding her sword from its sheath. She'd looted it from the captain of a Damascene galliot running north up the Sherman Rus coast. It was as fine an example of the artificer's art as any she'd seen. Misfortune spun from cover, firing her loaded pistol and slashing her sword through the mist creatures. Her shot plucked another spectre from the air, and her sword's edge bit as if cutting flesh and bone. Did the spirits of the dead have a physical component to them that could be hurt? It seemed unlikely, but she was wounding something inside of them. She didn't have time to think too hard on the matter and suspected that whatever power she tapped into would be undone if she did. Men and women screamed as the howling storm of dead spirits filled Cutpurse Square, slashing with claws that froze their blood or reached into chests and sundered hearts with terror. 7 were dead, maybe more, their souls wrenched from their fallen corpses to turn on their comrades. A heroic band fought with blades and muskets, shouting the name of the bearded lady, their loved ones, and even heathen gods of faraway lands.
Bearded lady.
Whatever works, thought Misfortune. Raffen was down on one knee, his face ashen, breathing like a wharfside doxy after a long shift. Scraps of mist clung to him like cobwebs, and the smouldering root around his neck burned with a fierce cherry-red glow. "On your feet! This fight isn't done," she said. "Don't tell me the fight's not done," he snapped, pushing himself to his feet. "I've been through more harrowings than you could wrap a dead rat's tail round." Before Misfortune could ask exactly what that meant, he leaned to the side and fired his pistol at something behind her. A conjured spirit of wolf and bat screeched as it was banished, and Misfortune returned the favour as a spirit form of grasping hooks and snapping fangs lunged at her second in command. "Everyone down!" shouted Misfortune, plucking a pair of splinter bombs from her belt and lobbing them into the howling mist. They detonated in a deafening explosion of fire and smoke. Wood splinters and fragments of stone ricocheted. Broken glass fell in a glittering rain of daggers. Acrid fog filled the square, but it was man-made and entirely bereft of spirits. Raffen shook his head and worked a finger in his ear. What was in that bomb? "Black powder mixed with essence of copal and rue," said Misfortune. "One from my special stash." "And stuff like that works against the dead?" "My mother believed in it."
Everything works against the
"Good
dead.
enough for me. You know, we might just make it through." "Don't say it," warned Misfortune. The mist began coalescing throughout the square, first in thin tendrils and wisps, then in glowing outlines of monsters.
Would be cool if there's actually a monster that is controlling this mist, and it's just a 1-year cooldown to do it again. And then they're gonna release this monster onto the League of Legends. It's like a long-ass cooldown to release the mist. That's the ultimate.
Things with conjoined legs, fang-filled jaws, and arms that ended in hooks or pincers. The spirits they thought they'd killed. Reforming, returning. What was it folks said about plans and the contents of the privy? "Turns out the dead are pretty hard to kill," said Misfortune, trying not to let the fear show. She couldn't think petty trinkets and blind faith were enough to face the spirits.
There we go.
She wanted to show the people of Bilgewater
That was annoying. Sorry about
they
that.
could forge their own destiny. Instead, she was going to get herself killed and leave the city to be torn apart. A bass rumble rolled through the square, then another. Percussion thunder strikes.
Well, Viego isn't necessarily controlling the mist, I believe. Right? He's just the ruined king. I don't know if he's actually controlling the mist. Yeah, he controls the mist, or at least when he wants to, he does. Yeah, but I'm saying like the mist that like gets all of the harrowing going, like this shit that's like everywhere. I don't think that's Viego. I know he controls a mist, yeah, but I don't think he controls the mist, right? Like this part. I know everything started because of Viego. Or like maybe he can only control a part of it usually, but it's like during the harrowing his power multiplies on the top of itself and then he can control all of it. I don't know. Because otherwise, why is the harrowing only once a year? Maybe Viego's rage, or like basically when, you know, he tried to, it's not rage really, when he tried to resurrect her, that was during the Halloween. And once a year, towards the anniversary of his wife's death, that's when, you know, he remembers and the mist becomes stronger. I don't know, maybe.
Rising in a stalking storm. It grew to become pounding hammer blows on an anvil, faster and louder until the ground shook with violence. "What in the nine deeps is that?" said Raffen. "I don't know," said Miss Fortune, as the outline of a spectral horseman in midnight plate emerged from the mist. He sat atop a strangely proportioned warhorse, and his helm was worked in the form of a snarling demon. "A dread knight?" said Miss Fortune.
A Hecarim?
Raffen shook his head, his face drained of colour.
Actually, no, Hecarim is the horse.
"That's no knight," he said. "That's the Shadow of War."
Shadow of War. Could be Hecarim, right? But Hecarim is like, he's connected to his horse, right? So let me see. Hecarim images. Oh, never mind. It is Hecarim. Because she said at the end there, that's no knight, that's no dread knight, that's the Shadow of War. Hecarim's second name is the Shadow of War. So it was Hecarim. That's it for this part. Let's go to the next one.